Hey everyone, and welcome to What Did I Miss? I'm your host Eric, and today I will be going into one of the newest and most talked about characters in the MCU and giving you 10 things that you probably didn't know about Monica Rambeau. Now, I think it goes without saying that this video will contain spoilers from the comic books as well as the MCU, but it stands to reason that if you clicked on the video, you already knew that. Miss Rambeau has been around for a while, but has recently seen a big increase in her popularity due to her inclusion in the Marvel Cinematic Universe series WandaVision. While the MCU may be creating their own version of the character, you can see nods to her roots in the source material already, and with her story in the MCU just starting out, it looks like they have big plans for her. First, if you enjoy this video and videos like it, you can help me out by hitting that like button and subscribe bell. I've been releasing a bunch of WandaVision theory videos too, and I will link those in the description if you'd like to watch them. Thank you for clicking on this video, and I hope that you enjoy it. So let's get into 10 things that you may not know about Monica Rambeau. Number 10. Fought Spider-Man in her first appearance. Monica Rambeau was created by writer Roger Stern and artist John Romita Jr. and first debuted in the Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 16 in 1982. She joins a long list of popular heroes and villains that have debuted in the pages of a Spider-Man comic, such as the Punisher, Cloak and Dagger, the Kingpin, and of course Venom. And let's just say that things did not get off to a great start between the two, as a misunderstanding led Monica to punching Spider-Man as hard as anyone ever has, partially because she did not understand her powers yet. Monica was a harbor police lieutenant who was trying to arrest a man with a weapon that could create extra-dimensional energy, and received her powers when she caused the machine to explode rather than allowing the villain to use it. Unfortunately, Spidey was chasing a purse chaser around the same time, and it turns out that the damsel in distress was Monica in disguise. She was so powerful even in her first appearance that while Spider-Man's famed Spidey sense did warn him, she was so fast that he was not able to move out of the way. It was determined that this immense power would eventually lead her to exploding and destroying everything around her, and she accepted help from Spider-Man as well as Iron Man to drain off the excess power and control the power she was left with. Number 9. She is from NOLA. Monica Rambeau was born and raised in New Orleans and is very proud of her ties there. Her career in the police force did not start out great though, as she was not taken seriously by her superiors, and the incident in which she got her powers was her having to go off on her own after not being listened to because she was a woman. Ironically, the promotion she was seeking was a move from lieutenant to captain, a rank she would famously carry for some time. She would come back to the city over time and protect it when needed against established groups like the Wrecking Crew, and also return for special events like when New Orleans was affected by Hurricane Katrina in the Marvel Comics universe, and Monica returned to fight off vampires. In a really cool story in Black Panther Volume 4 number 13, she teamed up with T'Challa, as well as Blade, Brother Voodoo from Doctor Strange, Luke Cage, and the Dora Milaje, who are the personal bodyguards of the Black Panther, to rid the city of a group of vampires. There is a Blade movie being developed in the MCU, and I would love to see this storyline at least partially adapted for that. Number 8. Monica's design was modeled after Pam Grier. Designing a superhero after a famous person is hardly a new gimmick, and it's not hard to imagine why creator John Romita Jr. chose Pam Grier as the basis for the design of Monica Rambeau, as she was one of the most popular African-American actresses of the 1970s. In fact, even Pulp Fiction creator Quentin Tarantino has called Pam Grier the first female action star, so it makes sense that she would get a comic book character designed in her likeness. Not only was Miss Grier popular, but the no-nonsense style she portrayed in movies such as the original Foxy Brown and Coffee was exactly the template the artist needed for this tough and powerful woman. At the last moment though, it seems that the character's features were changed a bit not to be such an exact replica, but in her early appearances at least, I think you can definitely see where the inspiration came from. Number 7. First female Captain Marvel. Brie Larson's Carol Danvers may be the first person to use the moniker Captain Marvel in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but this was definitely not the case in the comics. In fact, she was using the name Miss Marvel when Monica Rambeau gained her powers and the press dubbed her the new Captain Marvel. But even Monica was the second person to use the name, as the Kree superhero Mar-Vell used the alias before her. But by the time it was passed on to Monica, he had died. It's actually kind of odd that she ever did use this name, because her powers and debut are in no way tied to the hero Mar-Vell or the Kree Empire, so it was almost like Marvel just wanted another Captain Marvel flying around. But even still, Monica has the distinction as being the first woman to carry the very powerful alias, and did so as a member of the Avengers, having joined the team after her meeting with Iron Man and Doctor Strange after her debut. Speaking of her time as an Avenger. Number 6. First African-American female Avenger. Another very important distinction that Monica Rambeau has is that she is the first African-American woman to be made a full member of the Avengers team. While having an African-American woman on a team of superheroes may not seem like a big deal now, in the 1980s it still was a big deal when she joined the team after getting help from Captain America and the Wasp in the use of her powers. Not only was she a powerful member of the team, but she also became the leader of the team for a short time after she replaced another female team leader, the Wasp, but eventually had to step down after briefly losing her powers. She was actually only the second African-American woman to lead a major team of superheroes at that point, after Storm from the X-Men. Later on in her career, she would be once again thrust into a leadership role as the field team leader of the Mighty Avengers during the Infinity storyline. But regardless of her deeds on the battlefield, she will always hold a special distinction in the history of the representation of African-American women in the Marvel Comics universe. Number 5. Just call her Monica. One of the strangest parts of Monica Rambeau's backstory are her superhero aliases, of which she has many. While she was first introduced to comic fans as Captain Marvel, she would eventually give that up so that the son of the original Captain Marvel could use it. So 14 years after her first appearance and starting in Avengers Unplugged number 5 in 1996, she would go by the name Photon. Well, like with most kids, when you give them a foot, they take a mile. And Captain Marvel's son actually came back to Monica almost 10 years later and stated that he was now using the name Photon. So she then started using the name Pulsar. After she took the name Pulsar, she joined a team named Next Wave, Agents of Hate, where she also went by Monica. And then finally, when she joined the Mighty Avengers, she switched again, this time to Spectrum, and has kept that name ever since. It appears that her popularity has increased the most with this name and costume style, so I would expect this alias to stick for a while longer. In the MCU, her mother Maria Rambeau is a pilot and uses the call sign Photon, which is possibly a hint at which name Monica will use if she ever has the need for a pseudonym in the MCU. Number 4. Strongest Avenger. While Thor may want to squabble with the Hulk on who the strongest Avenger is in the MCU, Kevin Feige has said that currently it is Carol Danvers. But in the comics, Monica Rambeau far exceeds the powers of Carol Danvers, as well as most of her peers. Her powers are laden in her ability to control energy, which means that she can literally turn herself into different forms of light and energy. This not only makes her immortal, but she also doesn't age, travels at the speed of light, can bend light around her to become invisible or to disguise herself as other people, and she can duplicate any forms of energy she encounters or is fired at her. So that means that Thanos could fire a beam of energy from the Infinity Gauntlet, and she could use it against him, similar to what we saw Wanda do on the battlefield in Endgame. In the comics, she's also a highly skilled detective with a photographic memory and can speak multiple languages. But make no mistake, Monica is one of the most powerful heroes ever to be an Avenger in the Marvel Universe, and if the MCU follows suit, Captain Marvel may not be the strongest Avenger for long. Number 3. Never had her own comic book series. Even with all her power and the significance of the inclusion of a character like Monica, to this day in 2021, she has never held her own comic book series. She did get 2 one-issue releases under the name Captain Marvel in the 1990s, but since then she has always been featured as part of or the leader of a team. Besides the Avengers, she did get to shine a bit as the leader of an anti-terrorism group named Next Wave under the supervision of the group Hate, which is like the anti-terrorism version of S.H.I.E.L.D. Although, with the history of Marvel retconning things, I think that these events have now occurred in a parallel universe. But still, it gave her a chance to break out on her own a bit with a group of D-list heroes and show her personality as well as her power. As the leader of the Mighty Avengers field team, she entered into a relationship with another powerful hero, Blue Marvel, who ended up saving her life and actually making her more powerful by doing so. Number 2. Oh Captain, my Captain. Captain. A lot of people are wondering if Captain Steve Rogers, aka Captain America, will be returning to the MCU. But if he does, he may need to take a promotion, because as it stands now, there are 3 active or former captains in the armed forces assisting or are a part of the Avengers, and one is of course Captain Monica Rambeau. In her first appearance as a child in the MCU, she was given the nickname Lieutenant Trouble by Carol Danvers, and as I mentioned, she is a lieutenant in the comics when she gets her powers, but she's referred to as Captain Rambeau when she earns her sword in the series WandaVision. The other 2 captains are the aforementioned Captain Carol Danvers, also known as Captain Marvel, who served with Monica's mother Maria in the Air Force. There is also Captain Sam Wilson, who was a paramilitary trooper before taking on the alias Falcon, and may once again become a superhero captain, as he is a candidate to take on the role of Captain America in the Falcon and Winter Soldier series, set to air later in 2021 on Disney+. Number 1. Monica Rambeau will return in Captain Marvel 2. The MCU obviously has a long plan for Monica Rambeau, as it has already been announced that she will reprise her role in the next Captain Marvel movie, which at the time of recording this is set to release in 2022. There is not much yet known about the plot of the movie, but it is said to take place in the current time after being set in the 90s in the first movie. There are rumors that the Skrulls will once again play a role in the plot, as they certainly did in the first movie, and may be involved in more than we know already in the MCU, given that Marvel has announced a Secret Invasion series set to air on Disney Plus in the next 2 years. It is unknown how exactly Monica will be involved, but it will be interesting to see how she interacts with the now adult Carol Danvers and how they deal with the loss of Maria, who was Carol's best friend along with being Monica's mother. I could also see Carol taking on a mentor role with Monica if Monica does in fact gain powers, which I firmly believe that she will. Well, that is my list of 10 things you probably didn't know about Monica Rambeau. This is the first time I've done a video in this style, so if you did enjoy it, please hit that like button and let me know what you thought of it in the comments. Thanks as always for joining me, subscribe if you like videos like this, and I will see you next time on What Did I Miss?